Our teams are continuing to sift through the more than 3 million pages, 2,000 videos, and 180,000 images from the Jeffrey Epstein investigation released yesterday by the Justice Department. While Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche claimed the DOJ obligation under the Epstein Files Transparency Act was, quote, completed, yesterday's release only accounted for half of the 6 million pages he says the DOJ identified. Blanche adamantly defended the more than 40-day delay as necessary to protect the identities of Epstein's victims.
So the act had multiple requirements. Get it done in 30 days, and you better not release any victim information. All right, so there's a lot of statutory construction, there's a lot of case law that exists that says that if those two are in conflict, we obviously are not violating the 30-day requirement by taking our time to comply with the act.
Yeah, my stock would be going down. And yet, DOJ has already appeared to fail in its obligation, as MS Now has identified that within the newly released documents, there were names and other identifying details of known survivors, including, in one instance, a driver's license with an unredacted photo that hadn't been previously produced in public court filings. Joining us now, MS Now senior legal reporter Lisa Rubin. Lisa, thank you for coming to The Weekend. So the first question is the basic question. You've been digging through all of these files, or as many as you could, over the last 24 hours. What have you found so far?
I think, Jonathan, the most important thing that I and others at MS Now have seen is the sort of sloppiness pervasive across the document production with respect to the treatment of victim identifying information. You mentioned that driver's license. I am the person at MS Now who found the driver's license yesterday, and I literally gasped so loudly in my chair that others in the newsroom turned around. And it was because I saw a driver's license with a photo of a woman, completely unredacted, her name unredacted, and the only redactions that had been taken to that document were of her address. The fact that somebody had taken enough care to redact her address and yet left her face and her name alone, and this woman is a prominent survivor, it was galling to me that the department would be so careless. And unfortunately, that's just the tip of the iceberg. When you go through others of the documents, whether they are presentations compiled by the FBI, whether they are FBI 302s, which are witness statements where a witness comes in and talks to the FBI and or DOJ and presents them with their narrative, these documents are suffuse with victim identifying information, including first names, last names, and other details that would allow folks who are familiar with the Epstein narrative to identify these people in the exact ways that Todd Blanche told the world yesterday was the justification for the department taking so long to produce these documents.
Lisa, one of the things that lawyers have been saying, reporters like you who cover the legal world have been saying, that we have been saying, and maybe hoping, is that these files would give a lot of context and give us a lot of information about these investigations that have been going on since they started looking into Jeffrey Epstein. But I have not looked through all 3 million pages. You have not either. Everyone's looking at different pages, but I have not seen any reporting anywhere about notes from investigators as they were talking, as they were looking into things. We haven't seen it. It doesn't appear any transcripts from interviews from survivors that are in this. Where is that information? Because this seems to be, according to Todd Blanche, Deputy Attorney General, the last batch that we're getting.
Well, look, Eugene, I have seen examples of both of those things, but how prevalent they are in the totality of the production remains to be seen. And right now, at this juncture, less than 24 hours in, I would tell you that I don't see a lot of examples of either of those things. That having been said, it's not an accident that the department released 3 million pages all at once, particularly after, in the rush to meet that December deadline, they were trickling out documents. So one of the questions I have is, why didn't they roll these out in waves? Could they have more carefully attended to victim privacy and satiated the public demand for these documents? Certainly, at this point, they are more than 6 weeks late. Could they have done that in a more responsible way? But I want to go back to your question about investigator notes and memos, because the ones that I have seen are absolutely heartbreaking. I saw yesterday handwritten notes and then the corresponding typed up interview pertaining to a particular survivor yesterday. And at the end of the interview, the survivor, after detailing her history with both Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell, tells the investigators Ghislaine Maxwell is, and this was her word, sociopathic. And I fear for myself if she is not convicted. And that really stayed with me overnight, because we live in a universe where Ghislaine Maxwell now, as we all know, is at a federal prison camp where the possibility of her getting a pardon isn't necessarily one that the president has closed off. And then I think about that woman and her fear that the sociopathic Ghislaine Maxwell will come and hurt her, or others will hurt her, in a world where Ghislaine Maxwell isn't accountable for her crimes. That's a universe that we're living in right now. That's not the past. That is the here and now for many of these survivors. And if I can, I want to read you a statement that I got yesterday from Brittany Henderson. Brittany and her partner, Brad Edwards, are two of the most prominent attorneys for Epstein survivors. They represent a whole panoply of them. And I asked them about this failure to protect victims yesterday, and here's part of what she said. What the Department of Justice has done is devastating and disgusting. Through this final release of documents, the department has flagrantly violated the trust, privacy, and the rights of more victims than perhaps ever before. There are not words to express the disappointment. Eugene?
Lisa, we don't have that much time left, but I do want to ask you about this very notable document that was released, which was the draft indictment that people have been waiting for a very long time now. The 32-count, 56-page indictment that was crafted by federal prosecutors in 2007, but was ultimately shelved. In this document, it laid out sex trafficking and enticement of minors. Can you explain to us the significance of this, and also remind our viewers, why was this never filed?
Yeah, it was never filed because the Department of Justice, and specifically the U.S. Attorney for the Southern District of Florida, Alex Acosta, who then became the Labor Secretary under Donald Trump, decided that it was not in the interest of justice for the indictment to be filed, and he signed what's called a non-prosecution agreement with Jeffrey Epstein, where the feds agreed that they would not prosecute him despite having grounds to do so. He then pled guilty to a single prostitution count in state court that was part of this non-prosecution agreement, and served only a matter of months in a state prison where he also had leave to leave during the day and go to his place of work. I think the significance of it, Jackie, is it shows those that 32 counts. Each of them stand for a person. And one of the other things we see in this production are emails from the lead prosecutor at the time, literally begging Alex Acosta and another supervisor in the office to A, let her file the indictment when Jeffrey Epstein and his lawyers were trying to get out of that non-prosecution agreement, but also telling them, come sit, come watch these women in their interviews, watch them break down, watch their devastation, and then tell me that what we're doing is just.
Lisa Ruderman, thank you so much, and I know you'll continue to look into all of these pages and bring us things as they come.